Today, we're going to talk about someone truly special, Dr. Doyin Abiola. She was an absolute giant in Nigerian journalism. And we're not just talking about a reporter or an editor here. No, she was a genuine force of nature, someone who completely reshaped the media in her country. And, stood her ground when things got incredibly tough.
I mean, just listen to this. Nigeria's own president, Bola Tinubu, called her an Amazon and an icon. Wow. When you hear words like that from a head of state, you just know this person's story is a big deal. And that quote, it just nails it, doesn't it? It hits on the two things that really defined her: shattering those gender barriers and her absolute commitment to top-notch journalism. It's the perfect way to kick things off. So, the reason we're talking about her now is that she recently passed away at the age of 82. And her passing, it just unleashed this wave of tributes, with everyone looking back on her life. And what a life it was! It wasn't just about the years, it was about the impact. She was right there, living and working through some of the most critical moments in Nigeria's modern history. All right, so first up, we're going to look at some of those tributes that poured in. It's the best way to really get a sense of just how important she was and the huge gap she's left behind. Okay, so let's rewind. Let's go all the way back to the beginning. How did this incredibly smart student start down a road that literally no woman in Nigeria had ever taken before? And check out how fast this all happened. In 1969, she graduates with a degree in English and drama. Right away, she starts working at the Daily Sketch and her column Tiro becomes super popular. Then she goes all the way to New York, gets a PhD from NYU by 79. And get this, just a year later, in 1980, she's back in Nigeria and is named the very first editor of the brand new national Concord newspaper. I mean, that is just a lightning-fast rise. It's all about raw talent and just an unbelievable drive. And here's a story that tells you everything you need to know about who she was. Really early in her career, someone offered her a job as the woman editor. A special, separate role. And what did she do? She said no, flat out. She wasn't interested in some token position. She wanted to be judged on her merit, on her skill, not her gender. And that one decision, man, that really set the tone for her entire life's work. So, that refusal to be put in a box, well, it absolutely paid off. Big time. Because the next chapter of her story isn't just about running one newspaper. No, this is where she takes charge of a whole media empire. And this right here, this was huge. In 1986, she becomes the managing director and editor-in-chief for the entire Concord Group. Think about that. She was the very first woman to hold a position like that at a daily paper in Nigeria. She completely shattered that glass ceiling. Now she was running the show for all of the Concord publications, which basically made her one of the most powerful and influential people in Nigerian media. Period. So just how big was this Concord Group she was running? At its height, she was overseeing 14, that's 1-4, different newspapers and magazines. Just pause and think about that for a second. Juggling the content, the business, the vision for 14 different publications all at once. The scale of that responsibility is just, wow, it's staggering. And the result of all that work? It was pretty straightforward, but so powerful. She took the Concord Group and turned it into an absolute powerhouse. It wasn't just about keeping things running. She built it into one of the most influential media platforms in the country. Her leadership was directly shaping what millions of people were reading, thinking, and talking about every single day. All right, so everything we've talked about so far, her success, her influence, it was all leading up to this, the single most difficult and defining time in her life. This is where her professional world smashes right into a massive national political crisis. And it was a test, a real trial by fire for her and for everyone at Concord. And suddenly, for Dr. Abiola, this wasn't just politics anymore. It was intensely personal. Why? Because her husband, MKO Abiola, won the presidential election on June 12, 1993. It was seen as a fair win. But then the military government just annulled it, canceled it, and Nigeria was thrown into chaos.
And right in the middle of that hurricane, you have Dr. Abiola and her newspapers. The military government came down hard. I mean, they invaded the Concord offices. And then they banned the papers outright, prescribed as the official word for it. For 18 long months, they were shut down, out of print. It was a clear, direct shot, an attempt to muzzle one of the loudest, most important voices for democracy in Nigeria. So what do you do in that situation? Well, years later, when she looked back on it all, she said that even with the shutdown, the threats, the danger, her focus never changed. It was always, simply, about truth and justice in journalism. She just refused to bend. And this is why that quote from the president, calling her a soldier of democracy, is just so perfect. She wasn't on the sidelines. She wasn't just the candidate's wife. No way. She was on the front lines, using her media empire to fight for democracy. She absolutely earned that title, a soldier of democracy in her own right. So after all that, the incredible success, the intense fight, what's the legacy she leaves behind? Well, you can see it pretty clearly in all the awards she won and the influence she still has today. And the awards just kept coming. I mean, look at this list. She was an Eisenhower Fellow way back in 1986. She was the chairperson for the CNN African Journalist of the Year Awards, a huge deal. She was a major player in Nigeria's own Media Merit Awards. This shows you she wasn't just a hero in Nigeria. Her work was recognized all over the world. And here's something to really put it all into perspective. When she got the Dame Lifetime Achievement Award, which is a really big deal in Nigerian journalism, she was only the second woman in history to receive it. Just the second. That tells you just how groundbreaking her career really was. You know, we use the word trailblazer a lot, but for her, it's not just a nice word. It's the literal definition of her life. A trailblazer is someone who was the first to do something, right? An innovator. Well, she was the first woman to edit a national paper, the first woman to be its managing director. She didn't follow a path. She had to hack it out of the jungle herself. That's a trailblazer. So when you put it all together, an icon, a trailblazer, a soldier of democracy, she was all of it. A woman who smashed barriers, created a new path for others to follow, and stood up for the truth when it was hardest. And so the real question she leaves us with, the big one, is this. How will her story, her courage, and her principles keep shaping journalism's future? Not just in Nigeria, but for all of us, everywhere, who believe that a free press is something worth fighting for.